Chapter 67. The Dauntless. So what would you wager our next interruption is going to be? I've been sent the last few scraps of information that Sir Philip has acquired, and it appears that our interruption was sponsored by a fairly distant relation to Lady Takanped as a political favor. Someone wanted a new luxury yacht. Admiral Cistern notes as he sits next to Ambassador Tal, who snorts in amusement as they sip at the local wine. It's more vaguely fermented grape juice to him, but it's got kick enough for her to enjoy properly as he wonders about the exact flavors of a yellow grape and how it's not a beverage with citrus, which his mind keeps saying is wrong. I've actually seen this happen before. Everything gets blocked after one of these events goes under, so the more theory-minded go absolutely wild and do the cover-up job for everyone else. What's going to happen is that the band is being paid off to get spooked and they'll retire for the evening, and without music it can't be a ball. So everything goes down and the defaulting begins in earnest. Nikti Tal remarks as she sips her wine. She'd requested they stop dancing after a time, as keeping up with a man twice her height and with the kind of conditioning that seemed to think that stopping was a sign of weakness really wore her down. Thankfully, Admiral Cistern isn't the type to miss a trick or a hint, and he had suggested that she introduce him to the galaxy's wine selection. So they were going through thin, small crystal glass of drink as she rested, most of it tasting like watered-down grape juice, thin apple juice, and there was a hint of lemonade somewhere before this yellow one. So we best find a way around things if we're going to be denying them, Admiral Cistern says with a slight grin. While I'm glad you're having fun, what do you hope to gain? I've been playing the stock market somewhat. I'm a partial owner of Orcs Industries. I should be able to wrangle a few more percentile points of the company stock if everything goes well tonight, he notes before turning to the empty air next to him. That will interest your masters, won't it, Mr. Orshan? He asks, and Nikti Tal gives him an odd look. What is... Oh, she asks, and he tosses the remains of his drink into the face of the cloaken spy. Napkin? Admiral Cistern asks him, holding out the small cloth to the stunned infiltrator. How? Distortion demands in shock as he grabs the cloth and quickly cleans himself off. With ease, perhaps if you were to receive some proper instruction, then you might make a better spy. If you're willing to shift who employs you, I would certainly be able to arrange such a thing, he says as he puts his now empty glass to the side. Well, he certainly fooled me, Nikti Tal says in shock. There are a few of them wandering about, 7 by my reckoning. None of them have heard anything from me that's of concern or that I didn't want them to hear. Admiral Cistern notes, and the once more invisible spy gives out a groan of frustration. Oh dear sweet goddess. Dist Orshan moans as he pulls out and slumps into a nearby chair. Do you have any idea what this does to our operational security? The same thing that I did to it last time. Every scrap of information is immediately suspect and nigh useless. He answers with a small but very smug smile. And did you say 7? There are only 6 agents here tonight, including myself, the spy asks curiously. Then someone else is playing at being a spy. You might want to keep tabs on them. Admiral Cistern notes, pointing to their left. The chair moves as Dist Orshan gets up and begins his own investigations to the man's amusement. Is everyone here dancing on your strings? Nikti Tal demands and receives a slight chuckle. Only those foolish enough to get close. Even me? Oh no, from the practical political concern we mutually have the best deal possible already. Therefore you're not a target to these shenanigans but a witness and beneficiary to them. Speaking of, I've come up with a solution, he says, pulling out his communicator and quickly typing something out in English. He receives an answer quickly and he nods before returning it to its pocket to continue its surreptitious work as a body camera. Solution 2, she prompts him. You'll see shortly enough, not to mention some of the reciprocal lessons I gave you will come in handy. Ah, so we've got some slow and fast dances coming up. I understand. she notes with a smile. The fast ones are a bit of a problem in the heels, I must admit. Dancing is optional besides. I want to see all these people in these overly frilly dresses and suits keep up in a swifter one. You might want to clear the dance floor at that point, Mr. Orcian, Admiral Cistern says, and the sound of rapidly retreating footsteps answers his warning. How do you do that? I've been trying to keep pace with the tomfoolery of my own master spy. It's honed my instinct fairly well, considering that man can cross a room with utter silence in the time it takes you to blink and seems to outright phase through solid matter for how skilled he is in getting around. Admiral Cistern explains with a rueful smile. Yes, the spy and butler only did it to suddenly refill his coffee or have biscuits materialize, but it was still damn disturbing knowing there is literally nowhere that man cannot get to you, friendly or no. It's clearly axiom. Nikti Tao protests and he shakes his head. The pattern began in cruel space and has not changed one iota. I'm afraid it's a frightening level of skill and not any form of axiom. In the null, out of the null, in gravity and out of gravity, the man is unstoppable. Admiral Cistern denies, and Nikti Tao seems stunned before shaking her head in amusement. You humans are so bizarre. Yes, you haven't even tried to deny it. Why would I deny a basic and simple truth? Believe me, no one can understand just how odd a human can get better than the military. It brings out everything in our soldiers. The strong, the strange, the smart, and the stupid. It's quite the mix, he says with a smile. It appears that our second round of entertainment has arrived. I beg your pardon. I'll be back momentarily. He says, standing up and marching to where 3 Feli, dressed in a similar outfits to the serving staff with bulges obviously containing weapons to Admiral Cistern's eye. He's halfway across the floor when one of them yowls, draws a pistol, and takes aim. The Admiral steps between them and the canador they were aiming at. His sword flies from its sheath even as the laser's frame brightens as they do just before they fire. That slight delay that has allowed his men to dodge laser blasts and no doubt save their lives even as it now saves his. The beam of aggravated light strikes the reflective surface of his sword and is deflected to burn a hole in the weapon held out by her fellow terrorist. Screams behind him, shouts of shock and horror in front as he breaks into a run. A plasma pistol is fired, and he channels just enough energy into his blade to redirect the fragile payload and hurl it back into the weapon it was launched from. The first one to fire is now the only one with a proper weapon, and a quick flick of his sword shears through the barrel to destroy it. He then flicks it back so that it's held against her throat, but has yet to draw blood. That was ill-advised, he says sharply before glancing to the guards. Perhaps one of you would be so kind as to fulfill your job description and escort these idiots away? He asks. I can't do it. One of the band members says from the stage, and it's all the Admiral can do to not roll his eyes at the unfolding drama. Soon enough, the entire band is in agreement, and as the guards bustle off the 3 Felid, who are no doubt about to fall through a crack somewhere. Lady Tikanped is using this time to give a maudlin speech about how terrible it is, but they cannot have a ball without music. If I may, Admiral Cistern asks, interrupting the self-important woman. May you what? I was actually soon to request if some more eager and musically inclined members of my crew might have the opportunity to offer a sample of human music. I don't wish to profit off another's misfortune. However, I could easily arrange for them to provide all the music we require. Ambassador Cistern offers. I'm not certain such a thing is appropriate. Does this band even have a name? Bass and brass. Admiral Cistern notes, and Lady Tikanped fluffs herself up before going to retort, then seeming to reconsider. I'm still uncertain. After all, you snuck in very unusual weapons. Cultural artifacts, madam, properly registered and acknowledged by the Council. Every human is kinetically armed by default. Chemically propelled kinetic rounds are simply standard issue. Unless, of course, all weapons of description are banned, because I'm afraid your lovely tail would unfortunately fall into such a category as well. He replies, leaning to the side to give her long tail feathers a pointed glance. Her expression doesn't change, but he can see panic in her eyes at the very idea. Very well, let's hear what they've to offer, she remarks daintily, and Admiral Cistern smiles with a nod. He draws out his communicator, and a quick order later has the doors open. A dozen men in fine black and white suits with blood-red ties and bowler hats begin wheeling in equipment: a drum set, 2 guitars, a cello, 2 violins, an electronic keyboard, 3 saxophonists, and a pair of vocalists. The men set everything up in a flurry. On the main drum is the band name Bass and Brass in white against the black instrument. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Koa Jackson. I'll be your first singer from here. We have a wonderful medley of classical blues and smooth jazz to keep the evening moving. Koa introduces himself with his voice in a stage presentation that drops him deep into a rumbly, velvety bass. So, as the music sweeps and sway, let my voice carry you away to the end of the day. He continues before letting out a deep melodic hum and clapping his hands. The music starts behind him with the brassy call of the saxophones and the deep melodic twangs of the cello. Soon the guitars and drums join in as background tempo for a deep and full sound. As the man breaks into a song about the falling night, Admiral Cistern crosses the floor and sits once more next to his date. You're having far too much fun turning these little power plays into opportunities. Nikti Tal chides him, and there's a slight smirk. To put things mildly, yes, this is far too easy. I do hope the next interruption is a touch more competent. Not that it matters, each of my men are armed with appropriate cultural weapons. Anyone foolish enough to attack had best have a hardened skin technique prepared. Admiral Cistern admits, and she giggles. You know as well as I that energy dispersal is what's considered the smart defense. No one even considers kinetics too primitive. Niktital reminds him, and he scoffs. Such an absurd attitude. Just because I have a pistol doesn't mean a sharp stick moving towards me at speed isn't dangerous. It's much the same with the lasers and plasma weaponry. They may be impressive, but they're not the only weapons that can cause harm. He remarks, and she chuckles. Fair enough. This is quickly becoming the most exciting ball I've been to in years. I can't wait to see what you do next. We shall see when it arrives. My bodyguard should be back by then, so it will be rather short-lived to say the least. Admiral Cistern concedes, and she giggles in response. By the way, how did you know that one invisible spy you pointed to wasn't one on Mr. Orshan's team? To be honest, I pointed in the wrong direction entirely. The little fool has no way of seeing through his own invisibility, let alone that of others. He'll be searching all night. That's awful! She chastises him around her helpless giggles.